So I want to just hear from some of you, what were some of the words that came out? What were some of the things that these leaders did that really touched you? Please. Listen. Did you say what you said?
Yeah.
Listen to you. That's so incredibly important. Why is listening so important?
Because it makes someone feel connected to that person.
Absolutely. It makes you feel connected, like you really care about the person, 100%.
Validating and encouraging.
Validating and encouraging, absolutely. Thank you. Unconditional support. Charismatic. Lifting others.
People who want to inspire other leaders.
People who want to inspire, they actually are coming from that place. Beautiful. Learning from others. Beautiful. Unintimidating. It's so incredible. We think we've got to be perfect. We want to be, humility is one of the most important things that people can actually want to connect to you, and vulnerability, right? Believing in you, absolutely. Respectful, huge.
Building people up through your words, through your compliments. Focus on their talents.
Focus on their talents, building them up, please.
Persistent. Be persistent.
Love that. Rabbi Barnett, I don't think is in the room right now, but I think we've been his slowest learning kind of, group. It's absolutely persistent. Stay with us. Thank you.
Learning how to delegate.
Learning how to delegate. This is a huge, huge, huge thing. Thank you. Pushing you out of your comfort zone. And Matt, these are such important concepts. Friendship. You're there for me. Thank you. Sincerity. Absolutely. So it's interesting when please. And providing space. I love that. That's great. So it's interesting. We sometimes I think about making leadership so complex. And I'm going to share a model with you. There's so many leadership models. This particular one, and I've changed the language to make it just a little more direct, but this is, there's so much research on leadership. This was a piece of research that was done that looked globally at leaders all over the world and took that and kind of consolidated it into a simple model. And the concept is that you've got to be inspiring. You've got to have a vision. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to have an idea of, we're trying to make the Jewish community better. We're trying to do whatever it is we're trying to do. You've got to be able to take action. So you might have a great vision, but if you can't get anything done, then you can't get there. So you've got to be able to take action as a leader. These other ones, you can't do it alone. So you can be the most amazing leader, but that's not scalable. That's not going to change your city, your community, the world, or your organization. And so this ability to build a team of people that can help you do this is a core capability of a leader. And again, many people are really good individual contributors. And they're great and they're needed, but they're, like in an organization, they often get stuck at that middle level because they don't have the ability to build the team and take it forward. Or they can be really important people on your group that do particular tasks, but again, they don't necessarily take it to the next level. The ability to build a team around you of diverse people and diverse thinking. So you don't need more of you. Like, I love strategy. I love thinking about the future. But if you're really good at something, and I'm not saying I'm good at it, I just like it, but but that might mean you're not so good at other things, right? So maybe you don't like I'm not so good at the tactics. Like if you say, some people love doing laundry because it's tactics, you get them, I'm not so good at that. That doesn't inspire me, right? But other people, everyone has different things that inspire them. And so building a team of diverse people is a critical leadership capability. This next one on teach, I would say one of the biggest things from a leadership perspective is this learning to teach, not tell. Asking the questions, getting people to self-discover, really realizing that there's this amazing gift you can give them by teaching, not just telling. So again, another big concept. And the middle part of this leadership model is around who you are as a person. Are you somebody that I want to follow? Do I believe in your value system? Are you treating me in a way that I feel is respectful? Are you listening to me? All those interpersonal components. So this model, by the way, is helpful, I think, on the Jinspire work. It's helpful for your kids who are learning to be leaders in their organizations, your husbands, for anyone. This is the core of what leadership is about. So before I go on, any questions of what anything on here. Please.
Humility.
Yeah, and I said that absolutely, it's really, really funny. Thank you. I'm going to just build on that for just a moment. Humility is so important. So back like in the 70s, let's just go back a long ways. And again, you might not be into the financial piece, but back in the 70s, I would say about 95% of a company's stock price was tied to their financials. So basically, if you had good financials, like most of you, even if you're not in the stock market, own a stock or know what companies are valued, and 95% of a company's value is tied to their stock price. Today, what do you think the number is? Right, someone said less than half. It's about 45% of a company's value is tied to their stock price. To their financials, because of just things you mentioned. This concept of what's in the middle. Does your leadership team have the capability to inspire their organization to get to the next level? Do you have the ability to kind of deliver what you're saying because of who you are internally and as leaders? So things like humility, we've been burnt in the stock market, right? Because a lot of people have not had the right ethical behaviors. So leadership is not only good for the company, internally how you feel, but it is absolutely evaluated for the first time now in the external marketplace. So the stuff that you deal with every day as a leader on your Jinspire work is exactly the same things that leaders in any capacity are doing. So I mean, that's why I'm in such awe of you. What you've been able to accomplish is tremendous. Humility is huge. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So this is another piece I just think would be maybe helpful. Is many of us go from individual people, we went on a trip or we're inspired, we want to do something, and then we start managing, right? And now we want to be leaders. So I know you guys can't see. Do you want to move your chairs over here so would that be helpful for you? Or come over here? I feel so bad because it's so like for, yeah, come, I'd love you. You're so important. We want you to be able to see. And I know it's so hard when you're kind of stuck in a corner. Yeah. We want everyone to be comfortable. These two are empty. You've got a beautiful hat, you know. Please. Oh, would that be helpful? Yeah, sure. There's a seat right over here. Okay, yeah, I got you right here. So anyway, let me just share with you some of these ideas, and I'll come over here so I'm not in your way. Hello. So this idea of management versus leadership, I think this is a really important piece because so many of the leaders that I've met in the room so far are amazing at doing things, right? You're just amazing at getting things done. And I'm going to challenge you to start thinking about leading versus doing. So we start off in managing things, right? We're managing a fundraiser, we're managing a class, we're managing tasks. We're doing things. Now what we're talking about is leading people. So do you see like you're going from managing things or tasks to leading people, a different capability. You're going from doing things right, like, oh my gosh, do we have everyone signed up? Is, all the logistics organized, to doing things right? More thinking broader, helping others get those other components done. We have to go from planning, organizing, directing, and this is a huge one, controlling, right, is where we start. I'm going to control everything. Am I the only one that has that problem? So controlling everything and to letting go. When you're really teaching and enabling and growing an organization, you have to be able to let go of the way you might want to do it so that you can inspire, influence, and motivate. It might mean the event that you've done for 3 years might end up being done a little different because you now have a new leader doing that you're inspiring, and you have to learn to let go if that's going to happen. And the only reason I'm pushing on this is not that you can totally let go, but I see that for some people, the ability to get burnt out and just take so much on and try to do everything yourself is, in my mind, just not a sustainable model. So we've got to figure out how do we get others involved, and that's where leadership comes in, that I inspire them to want to be involved and take on more, but also my challenge is letting go and letting them do it the way that they would do it. Big, big shift. The idea of controlling complexity to actually creating change, right? We want to control everything and make it in a certain way, creating change. And then this last one of transactional, again, tasks, to transformational. I mean, I just believe if we're going to totally change the Jewish world, right, and so many people are not connected at all. I mean, I grew up with so little around Judaism that I remember when I met my husband second week of college. And we went, so the very beginning of college is the Jewish holiday. So I went with my husband, who wasn't my husband then, this guy I met, who I thought was really cute, to Hillel probably, and went on campus and all of a sudden, like during the service, like he's standing up and sitting down, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he actually knows what's going on here, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like the idea of like taking all these people who don't know anything and bringing them together, it has to go away from transactional to transformational. And you can't do it by yourself. So that's why, to me, this concept of leadership and creating ultimately the right, strategy and structure and processes to make you successful becomes so important. Any questions on this? It's this doing versus leading balance, and it's always a balance. Please.
I understand what you said.
Yeah.
Sometimes the words like transactional to transformational. I mean,
Right, they're harder words, and so that one I can explain if you'd like.
yes.
Okay.
Your concept was easy to understand. These words don't.
Yeah, and so what I would say on anything that I do here, I love that, thank you so much, is like don't pay attention to the words then, right? These are words that, I kind of live in this like really corporate-y environment, like ignore most of what I say. But the idea, what I would say here from a language perspective is transactional or transactions. You go to the supermarket, what do? You do a transaction. You go in, you're organizing a particular class, you're doing transactional tasks. Tasks that are transactional, that are just a transaction. You and I have a transaction. Transformational is a real change. It's you're transforming something. You're making it totally different. So if it's helpful, use it.
That's kind of your goal.
Right.
Like you go in, I go in thinking I have to transform, and then the little transactions.
Right, and love that. And eventually, you need to let go of doing all of the transactions yourself so that you allow yourself headspace to think in a transformational or a bigger way. Because if you're always stuck here doing the tasks, I don't know about you, but most of us are so busy, our heads are going so fast from the minute we wake up. To take time to be a leader, it takes time to pause and to think and not just do. Thank you.
Another question, arrow at the bottom.
Yeah.
Manage, lead. Is that like a balance, or is that do leads to manage, lead?
Yeah, it's a great, great question. So it is, I find, always a balance, right? So that you can't always, even leaders of really big things can't always be playing where they want. There's stuff to get done. You've got to look at the financials. You've got to look at your people. You've got to care about all the detail. But you have to let go of the detail enough to give your space to think. And that's the only thing. And again, to me, again, if we're scaling this Jinspire work, we have to figure out a way not to just do it ourselves. There's so much richness here. One of the things I was talking to Rabbi Barnett about is at some point actually giving you the real tools on how do we structure our organizations to be able to effectively do this and bring in the right talent and people to know how to do it. Because I think often we think people won't do it, right? Oh, my participants or my people won't step up. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think a lot of it is figuring out how we give the ask. How do we, again, teach, not tell? How do we do that and create a structure that allows us to do that? So I'm going to try to set some of that up today, but we'll absolutely have time, and I'm so available and open to talking further with anyone that would like that.
I mean, basically, the bottom line is it's all about the ego, and we need to let go of that and know that even though we may not be in charge of everything, we created something, and if it wasn't for people who have done all this work, it wouldn't be.
I love that. Could everyone hear her? Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Please.
I have a question. I feel like this assumes, and maybe that's what we need to assume, that everybody in on your group, let's say Manhattan as an example, everybody in has the same vision. So to me, it's saying that before you get to this, you have to bring people on that all have the same vision. So the city leaders have to be on the same page with their goals, I would think, and the participants that participate on activities or transactional activities have to have the same vision or goals.
Right.
I'm not talking about the color of the tablecloths. I'm talking about what's the goal of an event, and that's where I feel like it's a challenge because you're bringing in lots of different people. We're all different people with different ideas, different backgrounds. I don't know.
So I really didn't pay her to say that, because look at the next slide.
Oh, I didn't
So
see the next slide.
you're totally right. You're totally
didn't
right.
see the next one.
So please.
Do you think our librarians can email us all your slides? I'm taking a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm going to, yes.
That would be great.
Yes, and again, I have so much stuff. I'm so willing to, and I love your question. And it's interesting. It doesn't actually mean that right away you need to be on the same page. I think part of the concept of leadership is defining together what that vision looks like. So it's funny because one of the things I had thought, again, if we had some more time, normally even for basic, fundamentals of leadership with a leadership team in a company, I might spend 2 days. So we're doing it in 45 minutes because you guys are so advanced and so good. But exactly to what we just heard here, what we would often do is start off, and so I tried to give some definition to the language. I actually have real definitions written out. If that's helpful, I can include that in the slides. But I think of a mission as kind of who we are, what we value, kind of our mission statement. The vision is really what do we want to become. Dream big. Think. So when JWRP was very early in its development, because a lot of you know JWRP. I had gone on a trip back in 2011, so a long time ago, and JWRP was much more of a baby organization, earlier. So I had the opportunity during that meeting, during that trip, to meet with Lori Plotnick for lunch. I had asked if I could see her. And I started asking her some really basic questions around the JWRP. So, what is the vision? How are you structured? What are the metrics? What are the processes? What are the blah, blah, blah? She's like, oh my God, I don't know. And so we ended up with the board really spending some time on this stuff early on. Because you get great, passionate people, but to your point, are we all going in the same direction? And so this idea of the mission vision, and then basically what you have to do is, once you have that vision, you got to break it down, right? You got to break it down to a strategy. And what I think of as a strategy is, so how are we going to achieve that vision, right? So if we all think we want to try to do some really lofty goal, well, how do we do that? That's my strategy. And then that strategy, if the vision could be 5 or 10 years out, right? 3 to 5 years even, then your strategy might be shorter term than that. Your goal is like, so what are we going to do this year? So how are we going to do that? And so your goals are, how do we gauge the degree of success? How do we actually translate into what my role is going to be, what's your role going to be, and what's your role going to be? And we don't have the same role, right? We shouldn't have the same role. And so it's really interesting when you're starting to put together a board or a team, is that you figure out, okay, we all want to be marching in a similar direction. We have to have that discussion. And then how do we break that down into a strategy and into goals? Does that make sense? Okay. And great question, thank you. Really critical. Any other questions? Okay. So what I want you to do to that end, if you don't mind, is I wrote a post, but just on a piece of paper. I want you to write down, and again, I wrote on here, please write down what you think your leadership team's purpose is in one sentence. If you're not on a leadership team, you're an individual, your own thinking of you're here at Jinspire for this event. You clearly have some kind of idea of what you would love to accomplish, what your purpose is. And I'm going to ask you in a minute just to write down your own thought in just one sentence. And let me just give you an idea about purpose when I talk about it. And I'll take it totally, I don't know. I was at a client this week, one that you know well, and with the head of their IT, information technology, computers, right? So in many of these big companies, they have huge IT departments. So when would you think a person in a company would call their computer department or their IT department? Right, when there are problems, right? So it's no one's calling up going, oh my God, thank you so much. Today my computer turned on, I'm so grateful. Like they're calling when there's a problem every day. So this guy has this really large organization, an expensive organization, and they're all really bummed out and in this kind of down mood. And he's not necessarily a warm and fuzzy kind of guy by nature. So we're having this huge meeting. It's a huge auditorium of people, and I'm kind of trying to get him ready for this. You're like hoping he doesn't say anything terrible. And he goes in and he ends up, from our talk, telling a story. And he tells a story about his son, who's 5 years old, who's scared to go to sleep at night. And that they found out that if they put this light on in the hallway, his son felt more relaxed and more safe and more comfortable, and he could actually go to sleep. And he goes on to tell this, like kind of upset, huge auditorium of people, we're like the light onto the organization. We are the ones that are creating, and people know that they can get their work done because we're there for them. We're creating that light. We're their safety. Like people are applauding by the end. Like he gave them some purpose, right? He could have come in and said, look, you get paid to do this work. Like, just do it. Like, what's the problem? But by giving him purpose, by giving them meaning, he got them inspired to want to go out and try it again. So I want you to write down, just for a moment, what you think your own purpose statement is. And then, if we have just a moment, maybe turn to somebody next to you and just share it. It's hard. Don't overthink it. Just write down. Don't overthink it. Just write what you think. That's why I'm using the word purpose right now. It could be your mission statement, but if you don't have one, just think purpose.
Have you ever read about Babcheck? Elon Babcheck? He is so.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, I'd love to.
We need to have it.
I know.
But wait, we weren't here for the big announcement. So remember the intimate? Which is good for us because now
Oh, interesting. That'd be great. I'd love to talk to him. I'm just going to give you one more minute. Okay, I'm so sorry to do this, ladies, but I'm going to interrupt this great talk. And I'm going to push us on. I'm so sorry. Ladies. Ladies, I'm sorry, but I'm going to interrupt your conversation. I'm clearly not being successful. Okay. Ladies, thank you. So I don't want to interrupt. Here's what I'm going to give you for a homework assignment, if it's okay with you. Is I want you to share your statement that you wrote. Again, it might need a lot of work. Don't worry about it. But what was your initial, very, very first initial thinking? Share that with your team. I would really suggest then, and you can do it in small groups if you don't want to do the whole team together at first, and then challenge each other. Bring it, like, I like part of yours, I like part of yours, and that's a great way to start thinking about and creating the conversation. I think sometimes when you just start a general conversation on what's our vision, or our purpose, or whatever you want to do, it's too big. Like, how do we start? There's something very powerful about thinking individually. Just, again, clearly I would love to have given you much more time to think individually first, but you have something written down now. Start the conversation with your group and your team, please.
Can I just say that I like what you're saying, because we've been, we're
Can everyone hear? Just make sure you speak so everyone can hear you.
We're growing, and
Yeah.
we're just trying to figure out, how to make our board come together, how to give everyone a different thing, but so what you're saying is kind of, we have this idea to just get in a room without making decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what, maybe at some point you could speak about that. Instead of saying, oh, I think this should happen, I think that should happen, just let it flow and let us get together, our group as Manhattan, as a group, and just hear everybody out without feeling like, okay, you're right,
Right.
just listen.
It's so perfect. Love that. It's absolutely, the hard part is time, right? I know that everyone is under so much pressure time-wise. And I think sometimes, and I so appreciate what you're saying, because I think sometimes we are so in a hurry to get things done, to make decisions, to get things accomplished, to do that task list, that I really fundamentally, and I would say this into any organization leadership-wise, if you can just spend some time up front to do the right things and to have the right conversations and give the space for those open conversations without a need to get a checklist accomplished, you'll save so much more time on the back end. I mean, basic change management, it's like you pay me now, pay me later. We always have time to clean up the mess at the back end. If we could just invest that time up front and have some meetings without clear, we have to get ready for the for that next thing, and time to talk about this stuff, the power can be unbelievable.
We're going offsite, we're gonna have a retreat.
Yeah, and I'm happy, again, there's so much good stuff to think about.
You're asking for us to identify not the mission statement, or maybe the
You
vision,
could-
I'm not
yeah.
sure, but not the mission statement, more the ultimate goal.
Yeah,
And the mission statement, all the detail would be in breaking it down, like through or by. Our goal is X, then the mission statement is by doing X, Y, is that, I'm asking.
Yeah, you know what I can maybe do, if it's helpful, is I can maybe provide a little bit, some definitions. I use the word purpose here because I think we sometimes get caught up in mission, vision, and all the kind of like lingo. And so I think, we all want purpose in our life. We all want to make sure what we do is delivering purpose to others. So I use kind of purpose here as a way to kind of start that conversation because I think it feels in some ways less intimidating than it does a vision. But I can give you some language around the vision mission pieces, and there are amazing tools and ways to think about that as well. So again, just an idea. You don't have to do it, obviously. So just some leadership lessons I thought it would be worth sharing. First of all, if anyone doesn't have this book, Lessons in Leadership by Rabbi Sachs, I'm kind of like a Rabbi Sachs groupie. And this, I think, not only for yourself, but for your kids, for your husbands, it takes each parsha obviously you knew that, and looks at your parsha through the lens of leadership. And I just happen to think it's a great book. I don't know, I find it really interesting. I am, of course, a leadership nerd, so it's basically, as you know, and as you think about it, just in leadership in general, is people that take action, they take responsibility. And I think we see that, I think the reason the Torah, to me, is such an amazing book. There's so many things I'm not good at in my journey that I'm trying to learn, but this piece I love, because it's basically a leadership book. If you look at, where did people take responsibility and where did they not? It starts off with Adam not taking responsibility, it goes on to, Cain and Abel, not taking, moral responsibility. Look at, Noah not taking collective responsibility. Abraham taking all three of them in a great way. It's all leadership stuff. So this idea of seeing a gap and taking responsibility is huge for leaders. This next one about good leaders create followers and people that, just are in awe of you. Great leaders create new leaders. And it's a huge shift, right? Because as a participant, sometimes it's so easy to be just in awe and want to be in awe of your city leader and just kind of continue that. But what we find is that that's not going to be the way that you're going to build capacity to be able to really, truly transform and take your work to the next level. So this idea of not just building followers, but building more leaders is just a shift in mindset. And to that point, leaders generate capacity, more capacity to get things done, not dependency. Because if I only need my city leader to be next to me to do anything on my Jewish journey or to make any impact in the community, it's not going to, too much burden is sitting on your shoulders. It's just, I have had this incredible privilege and honor of moving to Teaneck recently, which it's just the most, it's literally like being in Israel every day to me. It's just been amazing. It's really been amazing. Like I'm literally running from sheer to sheer, like the city leaders are amazing, it's incredible. But they literally are working full time on the work that they're doing. And we have to figure out a way to build more capacity, not more dependency on them doing everything. So just another critical piece. I also think it has to be nurtured. I think a lot of the questions you've asked is about how do I nurture the leadership? How do I build that? It's not something that all of a sudden you decided you're going to be the city leader or you're going to go on a trip or you're going to do a program and now you're like bestowed with fairy dust that makes you a leader. It takes work. And there are a lot of tools that exist to help you do that. And again, it's that kind of things we're trying to share. Ultimately, I find leadership is all about relationships. Do I like you? Do I want to help you? Do I want to connect to you? And this helps not only in the work you do here, but in anything, right? The way it works is relationships. And learning how to build relationships and how to really understand who you're talking to and understand what their needs are only comes from things like listening and teach, not tell, right? Asking questions. And then ultimately, I think it's so interesting because I think there's this vision that leaders are supposed to be in front of the room and charismatic and have this certain personality. And that's just so not true. Some of the best leaders are incredibly introverted. very much leading from behind, very much enabling their teams and people underneath them to be incredibly successful because they have the confidence to lead from behind. So I sometimes think people think that I'm not a leader because I really don't like to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly not the case. I mean, you can be in front of the room and be inspiring and be a great leader, but you absolutely don't have to be. Great leadership happens in so many ways. It looks different all the time. There's not one way to do it. But this idea of caring, connecting, building the relationships, inspiring is critical and a foundation. Please.
Edana, there's a great book everybody should read. It's called Quiet.
Yeah.
It's about people who have introverted personalities, or so we think, and how they really are. They have these unbelievable leadership capabilities.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking
Yeah, absolutely.
about. And it's a really, really great book for people who are in leadership.
Good. A quiet. That's excellent.
Quiet. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to go show you one more thing, and then we're going to get close to wrapping it up. Thank you for that suggestion. So, basically we have your current situation, and your current situation, by the way, are phenomenal. And what you guys have accomplished and what you just shared is unbelievable. I'm like taking notes in the back, like I'm like a little, writing it all down. Amazing. The question I think for each of you, and I want you to start thinking about, and just give you a moment to think about, is what is one thing, again, I'm not asking you to do 10 things. What is one thing that I personally want to do? Like we've just heard some of the other city leaders speak. We've heard a little bit of leadership work right now. What is one thing that I want to do walking out of today? And then build on it as we go through the rest of today so that you can really build a plan. And I think this idea of building my own personal plan of what I want to do will help when you get into those team meetings, because then you really have kind of that collective conversation about what we can accomplish. So I would ask you just for a moment to write down one thing that you want to accomplish. And I would ask you to be as specific as possible. What specific thing do you want to work on that you need to do? And then is there a key takeaway from what we've talked about so far that you just want to kind of noodle in your head? And then I think what I would suggest is when you get back to be able to really share that plan as a leadership team and be able to see, oh, I didn't realize that you were trying to accomplish that. Together we could do something great. So just take a moment and write down a note to yourself, and then I'll bring us all together. You said I had 5 minutes. Yeah, you told me I till 10 of. Well, you made me, I take you seriously. Okay.
Okay, listen to all day.
No, I could listen to you guys all day.
What was the thing when you wrote ideal situation, current situation? What was the third thing in that?
I always think it's just a key takeaway from today. The slide before that? Oh, I was just saying setting it up from here, yeah. Nothing important.
Everything's important.
Okay, I'm going to bring us to conclusion, because Rabbi Barnett says we have to. Oh, now I'm going like we have 2 more minutes. Okay. It's changing. Okay, I am going to close it. Okay, guys, I'm going to close us up so that we have time for the all-important bathroom breaks. Ladies, we're like on the bus. Can anyone whistle? Clearly, I can't get everyone. Okay. We have to close because we have an important bathroom break that we have to make sure we make. So I want to say this. I think that you guys are already amazing leaders. This is just it's like the frosting on the cake, right? Some additional pieces. I think that as I watch from our own personal life, the work that you do, it's been transformational. There's not one piece of our life that's the same because of people like you. I I just feel like this stuff on leadership, the reason I feel so passionate and so wanting to share or do anything I can to help is that you're putting so much burden on yourself. There's so much you're doing, and I don't want you to get burnout. And I know that there's so much weight on your shoulders to do so much because your hearts are so big. It's all coming from such a good place. And so the question is how can we collectively learn how to just spread some of that, how to just bring in more people, build teams and build capacity so that we can get even more done. So again, this is only building on the amazing leadership that you guys are already doing. And I just want to end by saying I look forward to getting to know more of you and being in touch and helping in any way. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.